This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 148. You must convince all of the decision makers. Are you a real estate agent with an entrepreneurial spirit who wants to turn your job into a business without sacrificing your lifestyle, but you just can't seem to find the right plan or any plan to help you get there? Well, then, hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom and the host of this podcast. And to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction, I've created a free strategic plan for you, and it's waiting over at freeagentgift.com. All right, let's get started. You must convince all the decision makers. This is a hot topic in my own office and in my own business because I just lost out on a listing. So let me explain how it happened. The first idea that's on the table, and by the way, this is not the first time, and we did really well. We actually got into a situation that we didn't even know there was competition. I'll explain in a second. Good anecdotal day here. Our mistake, all of us, collectively, is assuming relationship. So in this case, my telemarketer does a great job. She makes these wonderful outbound calls, offers our information package. It's accepted. That changes the relationship and the way they see us. But of course, there's an enormity of follow-up that has to happen. We have to stay on top of these people and, continue to talk to them about what's happening and try to glean from them what's going on. But you can very much get caught up in the emotion of the relationship that you're having with somebody on the phone. I mean, you're thrilled that anybody's listening to you at all. You're thrilled that anybody's giving you a chance. And when it's a luxury house, which this one was, you get excited. And when you get excited and you get emotional, and you get caught up in that relationship, you forget that you are in a process that is under assault and attack at any moment. You've secured nothing. Follow me? You have secured absolutely nothing other than you have a chance, you have a foot in the door, and you are having communication with what you believe is the decision maker. And so we just make assumptions and we don't ask. And this is why I have a very, very particular formula that in this case, if I go back and look at it, wasn't followed to the letter. And that's nobody's fault other than it's under training. And it's just another anecdote to say, look, every time we don't go through our seller qualifying questionnaire and ask the questions, and in this case, we actually did when it was time for the appointment, when we found out that in this case, we were talking to the husband, and then he turned us on to his attorney, who gave us an insinuation that this might be a short sale. We're like, mind blown, and that this was the result of a contentious divorce. All of that came in the very end of, say, 5 or 6 months of follow-up. It comes all the way at the end. So we find it out. I pull the fire alarm. I tell my telemarketer, Autumn, look, you've got to get me an interview with the other attorney and the divorcing wife immediately. Oh, well, I have a good relation. No, immediately. In my experience, this is a fire alarm. We do not have all the decision makers. I mean, there's a lot more going on here. You must get there. Well, of course, she picks up the phone and she gets yelled at and attacked by the wife's attorney, who's extremely defensive. You know why? Because that attorney is trying to control the situation for her client and has already chosen the broker that she wants to use. So now all of a sudden, we go from a presumption that there is absolutely no competition to not only is there competition, we're not even in the arena. I've been around a long time. I get it. When the queen is not happy, the castle is not quiet. And in this side, the wife's situation, they feel like she has not had any say, and the pendulum has clearly swung in her direction. And now all of a sudden, I know exactly what's going to happen. I'm a guy, I'm talking to the husband, and I'm going to be lumped in as his guy, as his friend. And all the conspiracy theories about who I am in this moment are going to crop up. So now I have to go into a very proactive fight to neutralize who I am. So I immediately ask for the meeting. I get it, but I can tell the attorney doesn't want to meet with me. God forbid should she meet with me, give me a fair chance, and actually find out how complicated and sophisticated our approach is and how it really would have been the best choice. I know the other agent, great gal, but not anywhere near the experiential level or the systematic level that we have. So I know I'm not getting a fair fight. And this goes to show you, I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago, how to be a top producer. I'm telling you right now, I don't win all the time. And this is a circumstance that you have to be aware of that could come up no matter what your resume is. You must know who the decision makers are. That's the second point. So ask. Ask earlier than we did. So we need to start to determine, and in my mastermind for the Realty Classroom, today I looked at the whole process. We have all this stuff. We constantly use mind maps. We mind map out a process, and we try to find the weaknesses in that assembly line-like process. And what we found that was early on in our scripting, when we first make the introduction and we make some progress, we need to ask, are there other decision makers who you'd like us to send the information to? Now, if somebody lies to us, they say no, they don't tell us the full story, at least we weren't the problem, right? At least we weren't the problem. And I think that's really the important part here of this entire podcast today is you're always trying to eliminate you as the problem for not having asked something, not having done something, having been delusional. You're trying to find that out. And the way that you eliminate all that is to build a very tight process that takes into account most of the scenarios that you would run into where you would be the problem. And a lot of this with scripting has to do with asking good questions and listening to the scenario so that even though we have a system, we can adapt it to what's currently in front of us. Had I known this early on, I would have immediately said, where is she, the wife? How do we get information to her? She has a new attorney. How do we get an information package to that attorney? So not only would we have sent it to the husband, we would have sent it to the attorney and the wife. And then we would have been set up for the day that this all went to court, which was today. And we wouldn't have been lumped in as one side's guy. And that's what happened. So the takeaway, and again, I'm fine with this. I get it. We did our best when we found out. And I always see a positive in this. Yes, I feel bad for Autumn and the telemarketing effort, but I knew once we were late, I was just going to work my tail off to be as detailed and helpful as possible. And I truly am a person of service. And I just kept saying this is going to be a tough one to win. However, I'm going to make sure I am of service at the highest level so that no matter what happens at the end of this, let's presume it doesn't happen again. Let's presume it does become a short sale or something happens or there's a complication. I'm going to be the next man up because I treat everybody. And when I sent my final email, I said, thank you so much for allowing me to compete for the listing. I remain available to answer any questions and help everybody through the process so it gets resolved. Feel free to reach out to me directly. Boom, put a bow on it. I'm not going to get paid, but I left everybody better off than I found them. And I leave my business better off than I found it because we went back and now we will train telemarketing. And at the mastermind level, you must find out if the prospect you're talking to is the only decision maker. You must. So instead of waiting for the last minute where you're going into an appointment. Oh, by the way, I'd like you to talk to my attorney. Oops, what's that about? Oh, by the way, this might be a short sale. Oops. Oh, by the way, this is a divorce. Oops. You see what I mean? Like it's so late. Now I'm playing cleanup on aisle 5 where easily I could have at least had a better chance to compete if I was way out in front of this down the line. Okay? So that's how this works. You must ask who all the decision makers are as early as possible. Now, tactically, a lot of you get nervous about this because a lot of you, a couple of my agents at the Griffin, we were talking today in our training for the brokerage. And as we were speaking about this, a couple of the agents were talking about sort of going along too tenderly. Stop doing that. Don't be apologetic. When somebody wants our opinion or our guidance, they want our opinion or our guidance. That's what they want. So give it to them. Don't withhold it. Don't beat around the bushes because if you do, somebody else like me is going to come in there as a hard charger, and we're going to inform everybody, and you're going to have real competition. So don't do that. You want to make sure that tactically you just say it in a way that's professional. Well, I'm going to send this information out to you. Are there any other decision makers who would also need this information? And shut up and let them answer. If they lie to us and they say, nope, I'm making the decision. Okay, great. Are you the only owner on the deed? See, you're asking those questions in a professional way so that you make sure that somebody's not manipulating you. And don't ask those questions. Somebody gets mad, then be suspicious. What are you getting mad about? I simply asked a question so that I can get everybody the information. By the way, this is an offer of free information on what to do. So why are you mad? See what I mean? And we could have easily done that in this case. So once you know who all the decision makers are, because you've asked tactfully, the next thing is now begin to do what I did, which was rally all the decision makers around the logic of the facts. So pretty typically when it's contentious, the attack on me in this case was, well, how are you going to market it? This person markets that. And it's like, so I got that a little bit from the attorney via Autumn, but not much. That was more about well, who are you guys? I have my gal. I get that. But when I finally was able to meet with the wife, and again, the attorney was smart, go meet with him, humor him, whatever she told the gal. When the gal got there, and I was very patient. She comes and, she can't meet right at that time. And then we postponed twice. I sat down the street making phone calls just to get there, just to serve. I knew it would be chaos. And when I got there, it was chaos. They went at it. I knew nobody was hearing me about my process on, the wife's side. Only her. She wasn't hearing me. She was emotional. So I just sat there and I just was a sounding board for about good solid 20 minutes after he left. And I did my best and sent her off with some instructions about net sheets and all this, but I could just tell it was fading. So I went back and I wrote a very logical email about exactly how this process is about to go down. I answered all the objections I already knew, and I left it so that I knew, even though this was tough, I was going to leave myself in a spot where I had left everybody better than I found them. And in fact, what happened was when I wrote that email to all the decision makers about the logic, I was like, this is good, organized stuff. I get this challenge a lot. My client care manager, Laura, Autumn, my telemarketer, we always get this challenge like, well, what are you going to, okay, so we're going to build that into an email template that anytime we're challenged early about who we are and what we do, we're going to be able to cut and paste from an email template so people can see the answers to these questions. They can see some of the case studies. So if we have expireds, if we have divorces, if we have, and I had all those, by the way, I had successful, consummation of sale in their neighborhood. I had two that were expired that were similar price ranges so they could see the marketing. I had one that was a recent contentious divorce that I guided one of my agents to that they could see. I mean, there was no competition when it comes to the logic of the facts. But even in those cases, because we didn't have control over a decision maker, or at least a fair shot, we lost. That's how important this subject is. You can be that good and still lose. And look, I know the other agent, enthusiasm off the charts, wonderful gal, but I know she's relatively new to the business, and I know I'm not. And I know what we do, and I know how we do it. And we rolled a resume down the street and a strategy down the street. We had it all. But again, once somebody has the law of corroboration kicked in, the attorney, this is my gal, you've had your chance, we're going this way. The judge really had no choice but to say, well, use this one. You know what the arguments were over in the 11th hour this morning? Well, the other agent's going to do it for 4%. Will you do it for 4%? I'm like, yes. But that's not going to make a difference. But yes. Okay, you have a market-making problem. You have other problems, but of course, you can tell them that. So now I know they're going into this courtroom, and it's just sloppy now. Now the quality of the whole situation, the process, it's been reduced to emotions. Now you're talking pure emotion. In fact, I just found out that in court, they said, well, our agent quoted 1.5, and he quoted 1.495. The attorney argues, yeah, well, that's how you get people from 1-2 to look up to 1495 in case they miss it at the round 1-5. The judge says, well, I agree. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about nonsense, right? So the idea is I just stuck to the facts. Like I said, they have all my facts for free. It's my best stuff. It's all organized, and hopefully they all get it resolved and they all can move on, right? But that's why I say I'm rallying 4 parties, 2 attorneys, a husband and wife, and a fifth in the judge around the logic of the facts. So I know that I left them all with that. If they use it, wonderful. If they don't, then here you go again. And this is why things just get perpetuated. People get emotional. Attorneys get emotional. Divorcing couples get emotional. Everybody's all over the place. So I just kept going back to the facts in the system. The facts in the system. Here are the facts in the system, right? And that's it. You don't win. Move on. And in the same breath, I'm talking to a couple of other people who understand all of it. They hear everything I'm saying. So they become a better avatar for me anyway. But there you go. Now, the last point I want to make here, if you know you're losing like you knew I was, stay calm and continue to serve. I am telling you as a pro for a long time, I knew that I thought we were in the front row and realized we weren't even in the arena when I got all the facts. So I didn't panic. I didn't get in a ranting and raving mode. I just stayed calm. And I sat there and wrote several as intelligent, organized, logical emails as I could to all parties and just kept them coming with the flow of what was happening. I doubt they were all read by both parties, any parties, but I needed to just stay calm and serve to know that I was giving the situation my best stuff. And that's what's amazing about really, truly zeroing in. And if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you know of service, to be people for others is the mantra at Griffin Realty Group, which clearly carries over to the Realty classroom where I coach. The idea is, if I really give away my best stuff for free at every level, I just can't lose in the long run. I can't. Because I will guarantee you there are 5 parties that know I did not make this ever about me. I made it about all of them in trying to serve the situation the best I could, including I just talked to the husband again, who called me up about another issue that he wanted to talk about. I was, enthusiastic about it. I said, you'll get it done. It's a great house. You did a good job there. It just might get a little tricky if you have to go short, etc. I just stayed calm. I'm still calm. I'm doing like this is the day this just happened and I'm doing this podcast. I'm calm. And I feel good about it. I feel good about it's congruent with my brand. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to, stay calm. In fact, I just got off multiple coaching calls on a Thursday. I do multiple calls, 1 for my brokerage, 2 for the coaching call, the coaching group, the Realty Classroom today. And we deal with other anecdotes too, where there was another deal. Paul brought a deal in that he was talking about this afternoon, where he thought his seller, and this is interesting too, very similar with decision makers. He thought that the sister was the only decision maker because she swore she had power of attorney for her brother who's all the way in Africa. Well, it turns out they're trying to close this week, and that's not right. It's not the case. So even when you think you've asked the questions and you think you have the right answers, you have to even be more diligent to say, look, where's the power of attorney? Give that to me up front. Let's get that to the title company. Let's get that to the closing attorney, whomever is in charge of it. Get all your ducks in a row with decision makers so that you can see the outcome going smoothly. So much of this is pushed down the road, only like to find out in the 11th hour, we can't even sell the dang place, right? So that's the key point here. Let me go back and cover these bullet points again. The topic on the table today is you must convince all the decision makers who influence a sale, listing sale, or a buy side. By the way, on the buy side, you get a lot of people who are taking advice from parents and every other armchair quarterback who knows more than we do, right? So you have to make sure, especially first-time home buyers, who are they listening to at home? And get to those people, right? So the points on you must convince all the decision makers. The first one was, our mistake is that we assume relationship. Stop doing that. Don't assume you have relationship with one and they're the bull in the china shop at their family and they're going to get it done. Don't assume that. Really go there. And you do that by asking. You must ask who all the decision makers are. And you can do that in a tactically professional way. So just, think about getting the information to all the decision makers versus saying, are you the only decision maker? Next, rally all decision makers around the logic of the facts. Here's the system. Here are the steps. Here are the comps. Here's what happened. Here's the net sheet. That's the kind of stuff I love to rally them around. And when they have questions, then and only then, okay, you want to see marketing, 3 beats, 1, 2, 3. Here's what it looks like. So you really start to paint people into a corner of logic so that they don't get emotional. Because if you lose somebody to emotion, you don't even have a chance. Lastly, if you're losing, stay calm and serve. Let me summarize it this way. When a real estate agent turns a lead, don't know much about them, into a prospect, where you do, there are assumptions that follow. See, we get excited in that prospecting moment. And we think things like, this person likes me. They really appreciate my information and all my follow-up. Even we might start to say, this is a no-brainer. This guy's a layup. This gal's a layup. Only to find out that realtor lost the deal because they did not know that there were other decision makers talking to competing agents. So the key is to always ask if there are other decision makers in the process as early as possible and present to all of them equally to ensure your lack of knowledge about them doesn't become the problem. All right. Remember, you can take immediate action to get started in the right direction with a copy of our free agent plan that's waiting for you at freeagentgift.com. Freeagentgift.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. We'd also appreciate it if you would comment. Hey, let us know what you're thinking on our posts, and then we can help you, and we might pick up one of those subjects. But remember, I end the same way every time. I appreciate that you're listening, but remember this. Nobody's coming for you. So go get to work on your own business, and I will see you in the next episode to help you do just that. Thanks again.